Hello and welcome to State of the Union. I'm Stefan Grobe in Brussels. The already strained relations between the West and Russia just got worse this week. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny was poisoned with a Soviet-era nerve gas without the shadow of a doubt. That's the conclusion of the German government. Tests by a special military laboratory confirmed what doctors at Berlin's Charité hospital had already indicated last week. German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who chooses her words carefully, has now hardened her tone towards Moscow. Navalny was the victim of a crime and meant to be silenced, she said bluntly. There were now serious questions regarding this attempted murder that only the Russian government can and must answer, Merkel said. But it must be frustrating for Merkel that Putin has shown no sign of flexibility so far. The thing is that whatever sway she might have had over Putin appears to have largely faded. And with Merkel's long tenure in power coming to an end next year, Putin may well feel emboldened to keep doing what he wants and to ignore her. The West's trust in Putin is close to zero. We've seen this again most recently in the reactions to Russia's fast-track coronavirus effort, which Putin called the country's national vaccine. Western experts immediately voiced skepticism, questioning its safety and efficacy. The episode illustrated a worrying trend, though. When it comes to the development of a vaccine, there is no international cooperation. Instead, it's everybody for themselves. Putin does it, Trump does it, and the Chinese do it. At least the European Union is trying to be more inclusive. This week, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced the contribution to a WHO-led initiative to secure equitable access to a future vaccine around the world, especially for poorer countries.
No country, no continent can defeat the coronavirus on its own. We have to join forces. Because one thing is clear. We will not be safe until everyone, whether here in Europe or out there in the world, is safe. We need global solidarity.
Joining me now is Thomas Boyke, Director of the Global Health Program at the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington. Welcome to the program. Good to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
So right now, there is no international commitment to distribute future vaccines globally in a coordinated and rational way. Instead, we're seeing some sort of my country first approach. What would be the consequences of such a lack of cooperation?
So there are really three consequences. The first is that this is a virus, of course, that knows no borders. So if we take a position on the vaccine that is nationalist, that is limited to countries, we will be unable to stop this pandemic from spreading. The second is economic. Every country, even countries that have done well in fighting this pandemic, have suffered the economic consequences because we're all interconnected. All our economies are interconnected. The third is geopolitical. If wealthy nations hoard early supplies of vaccines and are unwilling to share, that means other nations will wait. There will be consequences of that, and it'll make it harder to cooperate on other global challenges in the future.
So let me get that straight. Are you saying that there is a risk that this global dysfunction will extend the pandemic?
Absolutely. So if a nation, let's take mine, for example, the United States, seeks to vaccinate everyone before they are willing to share, that means those early doses won't be available to health workers or the most vulnerable populations in other nations.
Nobody knows yet whether the first proven vaccine will work best. Over time, more global input might be needed to improve subsequent vaccines. Shouldn't that be an incentive for governments to share information and pool resources?
Great question. Absolutely. There's likely to be more than one vaccine that emerges from this process. Right now, there are 8 in late-stage clinical trials. Their early vaccines are not likely to be the most effective. So if the United States or another European nation has access to an early vaccine, that doesn't mean it will have access to a later vaccine that is most effective.
And finally, is there still enough time to reverse the current vaccine nationalism, given that workable vaccines are expected at some point next year?
So we are running out of time, at least with the early vaccines. If countries are willing to devote resources to that, that will be one option. If there are bad consequences from hoarding vaccines that emerge early, it may be that countries are willing to cooperate more on later vaccines. It would be better and less destructive if we can cooperate as early as possible.
All right, Thomas Boyke, Director of the Global Health Program at the Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you for breaking it all down for us.
My great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
The big question is, of course, if a global pandemic that has infected millions across borders can't bring countries together, what can? Change of subject. The trial over the 2015 terror attacks in Paris opened this week. 12 people were killed in a daytime assault on the Charlie Hebdo offices, a satirical magazine, and in 2 related attacks, 5 more people were shot dead. The onslaught by jihadist militants had traumatized France, but also strengthened the country's resolve not to budge when freedom of the press and other freedoms are on the line. Here's French President Emmanuel Macron speaking in Lebanon this week.
De là où je suis
From where I stand, I'm here to protect all these freedoms, so it's not up to me to qualify the choices of journalists. I can only say that in France, we are allowed to criticize governments, presidents, and to be blasphemous.
blasphémer, etc.
That's it for this edition. I'm Stefan Grobe. Thank you for watching. Have a good week.